Okay, well, my name is Wes Ashcraft. I'm originally from in between Twin and Burley, and then I moved up to Pocatello, and then met a girl, and then I stayed. I fish mostly the main stem of the Snake, Hender's Fork, South Fork. I don't do the South Fork very much except for in the winter. And then all the surrounding lakes and tributaries of like the Port Neuf and all the little lakes down in that direction. And this is a streamer that I came up with after watching. It's kind of a variation of Clark Pierce's complex twist, but I like mine to be simple because I do a lot of other stuff other than just tie flies. Tie flying is usually like a Sunday activity for me when I not painting something. So this is a heavy streamer. It's a tungsten cone, and it's on a light wired hook. It's an Arex Light Predator. I really like the size 4. 2 is a little heavy, but it can work in certain places. And then the 6 is great for like smaller streams. Put a bunch of lead wraps. I don't count them, but then I wrap through the lead to secure the lead, and then I build up a bump behind it because sometimes I find that I don't want my material sliding back from my cone. So I build up that little bump behind my lead wraps and then move the thread back to the back. One of the things I really like about this fly in particular, the white one, is that the red crystal flash, when it's tied in with the white, and if you keep it sparse, it becomes very translucent and looks like a little blood streak running through the fly. I use 3 or 4 pieces of crystal flash. One thing is, I'm not very particular about length or size. I don't like them overly long, but I don't usually measure out my stuff. I usually go to about the end of that little, used to be a material clip, but it ended up dying. And then little clumps of white marabou. And I don't like to trim that stuff off because I use it as a under material so that I don't have to coat my thread or my hook. So I leave that in there. And any white marabou will work, but some are better, some are worse. And then I just cover up that stuff. Tighten it down a little bit. And then this is UV Polar Chenille in white. There's some other brands out there, and but this stuff seems to be the whiskey-ness of this material, if that's a word. It's one that I prefer, just because you can keep it pretty sparse that way, and you don't have to. I don't use very much of it because I want it to be able to breathe in the water. And I don't necessarily do touching wraps. I almost leave like a gap in between each one. And I take that all the way up to the back of the cone. Secure it in and trim it off. You guys all know how to use a dubbing loop? You know how to use a dubbing loop? So a dubbing loop, I use dubbing loops quite a bit. Because it's the easy way to put in sparse material and you don't have to use brushes that way. These are little hair clips from my daughter. I found that they work pretty good. I ordered them specifically for me. When they showed up, she wanted them. I was like, nah, you can have a little better ones. These ones are super cheap because they break easy. And this is like one of the cheapest dubbing tools there is, but it has interchangeable heads. And I like this particular one because I don't necessarily have to use tension to control my dubbing loop. And then I'm using Flyfish Foods Bruiser Blend. Senyo's has a white one that's almost identical. Either one of those is good. I'm surprised that one's was in the pack. But then I preen it out, get them all the fibers going the right direction and about the same length. I spread it out. Spread your dubbing loop. Insert it in the dubbing loop. Then spin it up. And this is an eyebrow brush. It's one of the best brushes I've ever found because it has bristle brushes on this side and metal on that side. So you brush out the material. I usually put quite a bit in there so I don't have to do another loop to add material, but I went a little thin this time. What I'm trying to do with it is pack it in behind the cone because I hate it when my cone spins and gets loose. I wrap it all the way up to the back and then tie it off. I usually do 2 in the front and 1 on the back. Sometimes I get overly active and add more wraps. And I don't use whip finish tools. Oh, I forgot to do my half hitches. So we'll throw a little head cement in there, or a lot. And then finish it off with some half hitches. Usually do half hitches first, but it's early on a Saturday. I learned real quick that you don't want to brush out that dubbing loop with the metal comb until it's tied in. And you end up having to redo your dubbing loop. The metal one's a little sharp for the thread, but I like it to be very sparse, similar to the one that's swimming in the tank. And then this one can be, I like it too because it can be fished in the round. You don't have to, I use on my setup for fishing streamers, I have a short section of an old leader. I use micro swivels, and then a good length of, it's almost always 0x or slightly smaller. That way, micro swivel spins, you can fish that in the round, and it doesn't matter which direction it's going. But it's super simple, easy to tie, and it doesn't take up a lot of my time. But I'll fish that one and this olive one that I'm going to tie next probably 90% of the time, even from a drift boat. It's almost always the first one I start with, is those two.